to stay afloat. Debt management agencies offer to solve people's financial woes by taking control of their money and liaising with creditors. But customers and financial advisors have labelled some of these companies debt vultures who prey on the vulnerable, and now lawyers are preparing to launch a $30 million class action. This report from Lorna Knowles and Jodie Noyes.
Nolene Main has struggled to make ends meet all her life. The single mother has lived in this caravan for the past 20 years. But last year, she hit rock bottom.
At the time, I was supporting my 38-year-old son, or partially, the daughter that's living with me now, plus myself. And yeah, the money doesn't go that far.
$31,000 in debt, the 64-year-old aged care worker was feeling desperate when she saw this ad on TV.
Debt Cutter has helped thousands of Australians through financial crisis by the use of a debt agreement. A debt agreement freezes interest on your debts, stops debt collectors from calling, and combines all unsecured debts into one easy repayment.
So it was when I seen these ads that they said, well, you know, we can stop this, we can stop the credit. And I thought, oh, that sounds good. I'll go down that path.
Nolene Main contacted Debt Cutter. Within a few hours, an agent was knocking on her door.
He had this bit of paper. He said, you need to sign this. He told me it was going to cost $1,800 and I'd start paying $300 a fortnight.
She was told once she started paying the setup fee, Debt Cutter would negotiate with her creditors to freeze the interest on her loans and stop the debt collectors calling.
So I'd paid them $900, no interest had stopped. Still getting letters from the ANZ Bank, getting phone calls from the ANZ Bank, phone calls from Coles, who had the credit card.
So they weren't managing your debt, they were just charging you fees?
They had done absolutely nothing.
So this is the debt management agreement.
Yes.
Then Nolene received a formal debt agreement in the mail. Debt Cutter had negotiated her debts down from $31,000 to $21,500, but they wanted to charge her an additional $8,000 in administration fees.
So how did this make you feel when you saw this?
Just shocked, I think. I was just angry and got straight on the phone and said, listen, I'm not signing any more paperwork. And they asked me why, and I said, because you didn't tell me it was going to cost me this much.
She cancelled the deal and got the $900 she'd already paid to Debt Cutter refunded.
No, I just think they're underhanded. I think, you know, you see the ads, stop the interest, low payments, you know, there's nothing about the behind-the-scenes charges.
This is the first complaint we've had, and that's the reason, hand on heart, we have refunded the money the day.
Debt Cutter says it did disclose its fees and believed Nolene Main could have afforded to pay them if she'd tightened her belt.
Certain places, we expect the client to move from a fancier, luxurious lifestyle to cut down and move to a more basic agreement-level structure where she could possibly make that kind of money to then afford to repay that in the debt agreement.
Financial advisors say they're seeing more people like Nolene Main.
A lot of the budgets we see just aren't realistic, so what they're leaving consumers is with just not enough money to live on there just to pay for their day-to-day living expenses, or just unrealistic strategies to get out of the debt.
My Budget are experts at getting people out of debt and saving again. Our caring and understanding staff are always ready to help you.
When I see the ads, they make me cringe. They really do.
So call today for a free appointment or visit...
Kelvin Turner approached My Budget for help in 2013. He's now spearheading a class action against the company. He called My Budget when his marriage ended and he was struggling to pay his debts on a single income.
With no long-term lock-in contracts.
In their wording, it was like they were going to take control of basically your financial situation. So from that, I gathered that they would take your money and they would pay all your bills and all your debts. And relieve you of the stress.
Kelvin went to see My Budget and they told him they could help. But the budget they designed for him was based on money he didn't have.
They advised me that there was a $5,000 shortfall, which I had to make up through whatever means.
So that was $5,000 a year that you were short.
That was $5,000
in order to meet all
over a
your
year.
debts.
Yes. Yes, hello, this is Kel.
For the first few months, he thought the bad times were over. But then the creditors started calling.
What do you mean it hasn't been paid? I started receiving phone calls from my creditors. They were just relentless. It was text messages, or it was emails, or it was phone calls.
So these were all the creditors that My Budget had said they would deal with on your behalf?
Yes, that's correct.
A lot of consumers do contact highly distressed, feeling like their situation is hopeless, and that has led people to needing to see their doctor about getting onto mental health plans. We have had consumers who have indicated that they are considering self-harm, so it is a really difficult and an emotive area.
Did I have thoughts of doing anything silly or drastic? If I'm perfectly honest, yes I did. But thankfully it didn't get to that point because I thought better of myself in the end and I sought help.
Kelvin turned to the Financial Rights Legal Centre in Sydney.
Morning, Kelvin.
Oh, how you going?
Good, thanks. So as a class action, you're our lead applicant?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. And so
Alexandra Kelly is representing Kelvin Turner and other My Budget customers in a class action against the company. They'll argue My Budget unlawfully pocketed up to $30 million in interest earned on customers' money.
My Budget at the moment is skimming the pot and keeping that money for themselves. We say that they ought not to be doing that, and that as a trustee for consumers' money, that money should really be going back to the clients as part of their interest on their funds.
My Budget declined to be interviewed, but it denied acting improperly or illegally. In a statement, the company said Mr. Turner's budget was realistic and that it had raised bankruptcy as an option. My Budget also provided 730 with a letter Kelvin Turner wrote to the company when he ended his contract, in which he described its services as invaluable. But he stands by his complaints, which will ultimately be tested in the federal court.
I just basically wanted to prove to people out there that going through people like My Budget doesn't suit everybody and they don't help everybody.
Australian